Since now you guys have a background of the active infrastructure portfolio and know the different components that are part of that portfolio, we'll talk a little more about Active System Manager, which is our converged or unified management solution that brings the active systems and the active solutions together and provides us with the ability to perform automated workload delivery and an end-to-end lifecycle management of our infrastructure from this single console. Right. We'll kind of quickly run through this slide. This just talks about, there's a lot of text about features, functionality that you can get in a brochure, but just a quick run through template-based provisioning, workflow orchestration. We kind of touched upon that. We'll go into some of these in a bit more detail. Infrastructure lifecycle management is an interesting aspect of this, and this is something that we are also going to evolve over time and improve upon. And our goal is, again, it goes back to the fact that we just don't want to go build out your infrastructure and forget about it. Right? We want to come back and provide you a good end-to-end lifecycle management set of tools to enable you to repurpose, tear down this infrastructure, and have it available for reuse. Resource pooling and dynamic allocation are also key concepts that help with utilization, and robust centralized management console. That's what we talked about ourselves. We have a self-service web portal that's part of this infrastructure, and we'll get into some of these details. We'll get a better picture there. The support matrix, again, just talks about what infrastructure we support. This is ever evolving, and it's fairly simple to add a new infrastructure components to this, and that's part of our framework we'll talk about.
Is AI 1.1 out?
AI 1.1 will be out in a month.
26th of June.
Oh, it's already end of June, right?
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
That's true.
Very cool,
That's true.
there's a lot of stuff in, items listed in purple are new in 1.1, and there's a lot of stuff in purple there. Which
Yes.
is
I can't
very
even
cool.
see the purple. How do you see that? It's like all
That's
black.
actually a good spot. I mean, I could not tell from here, but now that you bring it up, I could, yeah.
You got robot eyes or something?
But
well, look at the support matrix. It's almost all purple, and that's good. Because they only used to support the M620, and my organization passed on one of these things because we've got small enough stuff. We'd like to do the 420s, and that's very cool.
Yeah, and this shows that we are, aggressively moving in this direction, and there is a lot of work being done even towards the next release. So again, some of the benefits we talked about: automation, centralization in terms of our unified, converged management interface, operational savings that come along with some of these efficiencies, the capital savings, accuracy in terms of consistent deployments that goes back to our templates-driven, orchestrated approach, which reduces human touch points and enables higher accuracy. Adaptability, right? And that's one of the key tenets we looked at earlier. For us to be able to be flexible, to scale and migrate workloads, to be able to efficiently utilize our infrastructure, at the same time grow our infrastructure in a predictable, accurate fashion. Right?
So I'm a little confused with the support matrix. Is that's everything that's supported by Active System Manager?
Yes, these are all the components supported by Active System Manager, yes.
Okay, so there's stuff that's not on that list isn't supported?
Yes, stuff that's not on this list is, as
That's
of now,
normally how the support matrix works.
No, that's fine. It's just because there's not a lot on that list.
Yes. And again, this is from an Active Systems Manager portfolio, not the active infrastructure.
Are you guys going to do a demo of Active Systems Manager at all?
So yeah, I'm going to try to get to my
because I think
remote
that
box
will
and
make
try
more
to do
sense
that,
if they actually show it to us.
Yeah.
I've actually seen a demo of it, and the way they have to certify it and stuff like that, it's a slow creep, but
And also, this comes out of the acquisition of Dell Technologies last year. It was only November last year that it was acquired.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's it's pretty fast to have gotten this much on the list.
Yeah.
And also the other thing, and this is the advanced class, right?
detail, right?
We like to think so.
This is the advanced class
The
detail.
remedial classes mixed over.
The idea around in the Active System Manager, architecturally, we have this ability, we have this concept called resource adapters, right? What that is actually disconnected from the main body of code, which is the functionality and the capabilities of the software layer. The support matrix can be added in an asymmetric fashion, right? So asynchronous fashion, if you will. So you can now add support for things that you don't see in here. If we have a custom opportunity, we've actually done this with customers. Gale worked with telcos, where they supported, crazy-looking switches. I don't know what else to call them, and through a custom engagement with them because of the flexibility of the architecture. So that part is definitely possible, but this is more like now we're trying to bring that to mainstream, and that's where this as Bob said, there's a set of we go through a certification process and stuff like that. So that's why this is a smaller set than everything else in the world.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that one of the biggest advantage of this kind of thing with any kind of automation is the more of it you have to do, the more value you get from doing this. So that means that you're talking about either customers with really high churn, either build or change a lot, or they're just big customers, and that's why they have a lot of this. But big customers tend not to have nothing but Dell on their floor. They'll have some older stuff, they'll have a bunch of other things. So the people who most need this, if there's stuff that they can't use it with, it's like, well, we would get lots of value, but we can't. So that means that you actually then have to sell it to people who won't get as much value out of it, which makes it difficult for you guys to get it into the market and keep it there.
So, and one of those points, right? It's not that if we go into a customer and they have something extra, let's say an additional storage that they need to support. It's not that we cannot do this with them, right? We can have a custom engagement where we can build these resource adapters. And we'll talk about that in the next couple of slides, where we get into the details to understand why it is why we've provided the framework and the tools to be able to easily build some of these resource adapters and plug it into this infrastructure. So that aspect of it will make it easier for us to support a broader range of solutions. Although we are coming out of the box with this, this doesn't restrict us to the only things that can be supported and built.
And that's fine. I don't want to derail too much. It's just I'm noting that there is an issue here, and identifying who the people would be that, particularly like for myself, who I would put this in front of. And it helps to understand where it is and where it's going, to say, okay, this is how it can fit with you.
Exactly, and definitely that definitely comes up as we go on. So this talks about the end-to-end lifecycle management of our infrastructure, right? We begin the process with a discovery of your infrastructure, and this goes back to what was mentioned earlier, that you bring in your active system 800, for example, and you just discover that infrastructure with a single click. You're not going into each individual component and bringing it into the system. You just go and discover your active systems. Active System Manager has the intelligence to go gather information about all these devices. It gets information like what firmware levels are on these systems, what are the various subcomponents, and it creates this sort of inventory of resources that are part of this infrastructure. And the other key concept of Active System Manager is the idea of resource pools, right? And with this, all the discovered resources are added to this pool, and the idea behind pools is to have this shared set of resources that we can use when needed, and that will drive higher utilization and throughput by just assigning versus assigning just fixed resources, dedicated resources to certain tasks. And part of discovery is also integrated with Active Directory LDAP for customers who require that. The next part of Active System Manager is where the core template.
Quick one, time check. I think we got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah. Is that what we have? Okay. So I'll run through this quickly, quicker then, and then we'll get into some of the details.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm just looking at the agenda. Yes, sorry.
About 15 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, if you guys are going to do a demo,
I
guess I'd be
so I'll just
seeing it.
I think really like to dive in.
I may not speak for the group, but this is a lot of words right now, and
actually, even some of these charts might make sense.
Yeah, actually, we'll go through these.
try to connect, and he was telling me about he was having connectivity issues and stuff.
Okay.
Too, so. This will actually be very useful to this particular.
So we'll start with this, and we'll go through a couple of these.
We'll try connecting, see if
try. Do you want me to just go?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try that. Let me just.
We definitely don't want it to be a word overflow,
Oh yeah, we like them. It's 5:18 p.m. and
I know.
Yeah, with all the.
Oh, no, I love slides with like 800 words on them. Keep them coming. They're great.
If they're all different words.
I know. Hey, as long as it all
I
starts
used the
with
word
software
the
defined.
already. Crap.
There's a
Here's
line
our
that always
business
starts software defined.
Chicken, chicken, chicken.
Well, that would be my first.
Yeah, no, actually, slides like that are great if I'm at home reading them or whatever.
No,
Yeah.
slides like that
No.
aren't great.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's what he does when he's at
Because
home
because
reading.
They
if
are
you're going
always
to read it
bad.
at home, it should be a white paper, brochure. It's
True,
not
true.
a slide.
Sliduments.
Well, as long as you're not presenting.
I'm an insomniac, so that stuff helps.
Go grab.
Did you ever tell us where you got your? Is it an app that you made this slide?
No, just hand-drawn images.
Yeah, like when
That's blood, sweat, and tears.
The app is called a pencil.
The app is called Pencil.
stylus on
I've got a
a
couple of presentations
Yeah.
you can do for me.
Yeah.
It's not available on Windows
Well,
yet.
it doesn't occur to people.
Showed
because
us.
You'll need an
you know,
Android
I think
device.
that's the
Just
novelty
actually
of it,
show
you
them
know.
connecting, and then we can
Can
you
Yeah.
put that in
Yeah,
there?
I'm gonna
I
put that
like
on.
the fact
Yeah.
that,
I love seeing Matt and Ryan on the big screen.
it wasn't, some hyper.
Wave hi, guys.
Simple to the
They're
point.
totally zoned
Yeah.
out.
The
The
problem
of money though could be.
Oh damn!
the problem is you need like acceptable handwriting.
Let's see that before.
Some artistic skill.
Not
Yeah.
to draw
Both
a
missing
boss
from
with a
me.
beer in his hand. That works.
I can barely work Visio, let alone do that.
But you've mastered
This is good.
snarkiness.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You should endorse me on LinkedIn for snarkiness.
I will. Would you like some clout points?
Yeah, I
as
was
well?
going to say cloud too.
I will plus K you on snarkiness.
Yeah.
Oh, am I disconnected from the projector?
Push it a button.
Oh, is it?
Push the button.
Push button. Receive thing here.
Yeah.
No, is there something?
Monkey
I don't see
pulls the
anything
lever.
on there.
Monkey gets banana.
Oh, okay.
Banana.
You guys have
Ah,
sugar
there it is.
overdose
Okay.
here.
Security timeout. Somebody
Yes.
You left your environment running without performing.
You
any
need to wear the
effort.
I know,
cheese
right?
hat. You've been
Yes.
putting time out.
So you can tell
It's the cheese head now. Yes.
it's been a long time since I did the last demo. So
And you have to drink an old fashioned.
okay, so
So I can use an old fashioned. I'd rather have a mint julep, but I'd take an old fashioned.
Yeah.
So we have two real console entry points, if I may, right, to this product. The first is the self-service portal. We'll kind of quickly walk through that and what is available. And this is more of what a business user or even an IT user gets to see based on what's enabled for him, right? I log in as my admin. So this is the first view that talks about the infrastructure, what's available. We start with sessions. So we have sessions, templates, resources, reports available. We'll drill down into the sessions aspect of it. And what sessions shows us here are the existing infrastructure sessions that have been built, that are created and are running. Right? An example of a session is, say, an ESXi cluster that was provisioned using Active Systems Manager. So once you use a template and deploy a template, it is running as in the form of a session. It can either have a fixed duration, or it can run forever. Right? So it's part of how you choose to execute your templates. And we'll drill down into one of these sessions to look at some of the details of the session. Right? This is a simple session that's running an ESXi cluster. You can tell, it gives you the start time, the requested start time, the session time, teardown time. So this kind of gives you the scheduling and the actual runtime of this session. And the next tab is the resources tab, where you talk about the resources that are allocated to this session. In this case, this is an ESXi cluster. This has some Dell servers that are allocated to it. It has Ecologic storage. There is some VLAN configuration associated with this session. And on this, you have your ESXi deployed on these Dell servers, configured, and a cluster created in vCenter. And that's part of this session. We'll drill down into orchestration. Orchestration talks about what are some of the orchestrated steps that are available to this session. So when you create a template, and we'll look at that in the rich client, as part of the template, you not only define what the architecture of your infrastructure is going to be. By architecture, I mean what sort of server, networking, storage components are defined, are allocated. You also define what are the steps that steps or what orchestrations you want to build on this infrastructure to be able to provision these components. Right. In this case, there are 3 types of orchestrations available: setup, on-demand, and teardown. And by default, when you first execute a template, it runs the setup orchestration. And this setup orchestration, in this case, configures your bare metal servers, deploys the hypervisor on top of it, carves out LUNs, and allocates to this cluster and creates a cluster. And we'll drill down into some of these steps in another console. And teardown is another key part of this this template, where at the end of the life cycle of this session, this orchestration runs, and a series of steps execute to basically repurpose to tear down the infrastructure that was built and reallocate the hardware back to the resource pool, or the resources back to the resource pool. Right. This is one of the key aspects of this, where you manage the end-to-end life cycle of this infrastructure or this session. We also have something called on-demand orchestration that administrators can create and make available for end users. Let us say at some point you've built this ESXi cluster, but you realize weeks later that you want to scale up. You want to add more servers to this. You can build these orchestrations out that are based on some of these already predefined orchestrations that will go add a couple of additional servers to this orchestration. So here, one of the key things to note is you're not having an admin to go and try to manually replicate the configuration that he had done initially to build this out and create these new set of servers and bring it on board, which kind of could lead to errors, right? So you define these orchestration, and in an automated fashion, you build out this infrastructure and scale. And so these are the sessions. This is what we have for sessions. And if we click on the templates tab, so in here, we see a set of templates that are available to this end user. And since I've logged in here as an admin, I'm just seeing about everything that's in this system. But the key takeaway here is these templates are built and designed in the admin console. And based on what access is enabled, or what user level, user or group access is enabled, that person will come in and see these set of templates that are available to him. From here, just as we looked at it, if we take an example of this cluster template, you click on reserve to be able to go and create your session. So once you reserve resources, once you click on reserve here, Active System Manager will go find the necessary resources from the pool that are required to build out this infrastructure. And from there, it will create a session and go execute the orchestration to carry out the steps that are identified in that orchestration. Right, and if you click through reserve, we'll look at some of the options that are available to the user. So one of the key things here is you can define what your start time for the session is going to be. Let's say I want to build out a cluster to test to build a test environment cluster, right? And I want it to be available for a week, say a week from now. So I can go in here, set up the start time for my infrastructure, and schedule this template to be this session to begin at a given date and time and execute for a specific duration. So let's not go through this right now, but the idea is you get a session like what you saw earlier once you schedule this. Do you guys have any quick questions here before we move on to the next console?
Go to the admin
No,
designer
I'm
portal.
good.
Now, the other thing, this whole notion of session management and scheduling allows us to do things like maintenance upgrades. Right? You want to go do, you can time that, you can schedule that over the weekend, and just have the, hey, bring on this new set of storage gear on board, and apply the right policies, create a LUNs, add it to the data store. That kind of stuff can be automated.
And we also talk about building infrastructure. Right? This can also be a simple task like firmware updates across the board. You can build a template just to go update firmware on all your servers and schedule it to run at a given time. Right? That's non-disruptive. So there are a lot of things. It's not just building out infrastructure. It is also about maintaining your existing infrastructure, baselining firmware, and other configurations. So now we'll get into the main admin console.
And this is the part where you would see more of the architects spending time on compared to the operators, right, or the engineers.
And just to relate back to what we saw earlier, this is more of the rich client experience. And if you go in, if you click on templates here and drill down into the details, we see some of these templates. This is what you saw that was enabled to the user as I logged in as admin. In both cases, you saw all these templates. And some of the key things here is, let's just drill down into one of these. So with this resolution, this is not working, looking as good as I would like.
My special template that I created is exploded here.
So a template is, so one of the first things that an architect would do in a template is identify what resources are needed to build out this infrastructure. And it's pretty much as simple as dragging and dropping from a pool of resources that you've discovered. Right. In this case, we look at the sample template. The architect has picked Dell servers, some Dell Ecologic storage, some VLANs that need to be configured on this infrastructure, and these are the components that will be used to build out this sample ESXi cluster. So the other aspect of this is, if we go down here, we'll see a set of orchestrations that are available. And this goes back to what we saw on the web UI, where we had setup, on-demand, and tear-down orchestrations. These are orchestrations that are created by an admin. Or in this case, with Dell, we will ship some of these out-of-the-box templates, which will include some of these orchestrations. And clicking through these orchestrations, what you see here are some of the resources that were dragged by the architect and added to this template. So you have Dell servers, Ecologic storage. From this, each of these resources has a set of operations that are exposed. You drag and drop left to right and build out your orchestration. Right? You can also add custom scripts if you want, PowerShell or any other scripts to execute as part of this
and we did that. We did that just to make sure Howard is happy.
Yeah. Okay.
Got to make sure Howard's happy.
Yes, you always have to have the ability to integrate scripting into these things. So,
well, that's important when you have a limited amount of things that are supported, and you are always going to be limited by just how many things you can test. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And everyone's got something weird they need to do. And
yeah.
You know,
everyone has something non-standard. Yeah.
And to that point, yes, a lot of admins already have invested a lot of time and resources in building out some of these PowerShell example scripts that they already have executing. You don't want to come in there and
that's our build system now. You know,
exactly.
Just,
so we want to integrate that and make that transition smoother. So that's one of the key.
Build system was work-study students.
Yeah, I wish. Actually, I don't wish.
Yeah, and in a similar fashion, you'll go build out tear-down steps. You'll build out on-demand steps. In this case, we see one to add a data store, provision a data store to this cluster. So this gives you the flexibility to create your orchestration the way you see fit. And the other thing is, you can go in. So these are some of the out-of-the-box templates that come in, minus the demo and the other funky named templates. You can go and export these templates, import them, You can save as, you can create your own from these. So there's a lot of flexibility that is enabled here. And the goal with these are, some of these tasks, let's say creating clusters, ESXi clusters, are done millions of times over lots of customers over and over using the same best practices that VMware provides, Dell, that the server groups provide, storage, networking groups provide. I mean, these are very common, very obvious best practices, configuration steps that are provided to us and are already available, but repeatedly done over and over by IT admins all over, right? So our goal is to capture some of these, identify it here, and provide that flexibility to modify and change.
So the fact that you can export the templates is really cool. Are you looking at setting up some kind of customer forum thing where they can share and trade? Yeah, awesome.
Yes, and that is
very cool.
That is a very good point, and that's an ongoing discussion within our organization to enable that ecosystem. We want to make this a more collaborative environment and opportunity where partners, customers, even Dell, we kind of come together, build and share some of these knowledge, and we look at this as an ecosystem and a set of tools.
But an online sharing portal, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that will change our industry from craft manufacturing into industrial manufacturing exactly the same way that cars, guns, and everything else does, because that gives you an interchangeable part that's compatible with everybody else. So we can stop having everybody wanting to build their own, like carving their own systems.
Yeah, and basically reinventing the wheel over and over, especially with all the technology we have today. We shouldn't be doing that, and this provides us with that opportunity. And you can always customize it, and you have the flexibility to build your own specificities into these templates.
Yeah, in the VMware world, the analogy is cattle versus pets. You know, it takes, instead of pets, now we have cattle. You know?
Yeah, I like the manufacturing thing because you can't automate creating new cows easily. Whereas,
well, they kind of automate that themselves.
Yeah. But there was a long, there's a long history and pedigree, and that's one of the reasons why. And I always use the analogy of car manufacturing.
As someone who lives in Wisconsin, I would argue
like,
that yes,
well, now,
you can automate cows. Yes.
Well, it's like that, cars are full of robots now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you know.
So, and again, that's where, if that's where our industry is going, and I believe it is with tools like this, and that's where the people thing comes in.
Yeah, and then you get to the end of this, and one of your PowerShell scripts or whatever adds whatever you've just built into your, other automation tools to help you with the maintenance part of thing. How do you maintain? Well, that was one of your questions before. One of you guys, this is build is neat and whatever, but what about running it long term?
Yeah.
I think the other 5 years of
and that's one of the key things.
This will help with some of that, but.
Well, I like that this has build and tear down, which is great. But it does have some of those like change session concepts or change tasks, I think.
So, and what we have done now is using the on-demand orchestrations, you can build whatever changes you need into at certain given times. But in terms of reacting to certain events and change based on that's more a long-term vision for us right now.
Break fix is always going to be tricky, but like as you say, things like firmware updates or Patch Tuesday or something, things that you do constantly. You can automate it, and that means that you can build trust in the tool. So now you don't have to pay people to come in on weekends. At 2 a.m. Just in case something breaks.
What if my ESXi upgrades were just, instead of using VMware's tools, which are, what if I just tore a server down one at a time, and just redeployed it every time? Redeploy it at the new level, flash all the firmware in the meantime. Do all that maintenance to the hardware, and like bring it back up. And I just schedule it to run over a weekend. So. Yeah, and with these templates and the framework that's provided, we have a lot of opportunities, and at the same time, this will evolve into more intelligence and enable a lot of sharing and collaboration with our customers. Right? So, in the interest of time, I'm just going to quickly run through our final section, which is operations. Obviously, there's a lot of things here we can talk about. We can spend a day looking at it. But quickly, just to run through it, this operations view gives you kind of an aggregated element manager kind of view within this single console. And this goes back to the single pane of glass that we so hate, right?
And we'll kind of look at.
We don't hate the single pane of glass. We've just been overpromised the single pane of glass for way too many years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So again, the goal here is 20% of the tasks, 80% of the time, right? That's a good rule of thumb to apply to some of these things versus building out 100% of functionality from every element manager into the console. And one of the things here, so if you look at this operations center, it gives you a view of the active system. In this case, we have an 800. We've discovered the various server, storage, networking components. And what we've done is we've already used resource adapters and API to bring in the functionality from all these components. Why not make it also available to, why make it only available to orchestration? We can also make it available to users to perform actions and tasks, right? So from that perspective, if you look at some of these, for example,
users are generally morons. I mean that in a nice way too.
And again, the user here is, and this is the admin console, right? This is the IT architect, not a business user or an. Oh yeah, that's an important.
Even so, if you get it to that point, it's like the point of this kind of thing is that the IT folks do all of the hard work up front, so that it's actually safe for people to do that. So then everything becomes like a phone.
Yep.
Right? Because these things do all sorts of incredibly complicated things in order to make it easy to use. So if we can get to that with some of these tools.
And ultimately, we mean, by user, we mean, web developer who can say, fire me up a web server instance so I can play with a new app.
Exactly.
Not Sally Secretary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that means that it will get built in the right place, in the right way, and it will get torn down, and backups will be configured correctly, all the stuff they don't do now.
I'm always thinking as an MSP, I'm always thinking,
Right.
CD, those guys are going to screw it up royal.
Yeah, and the idea here is you get a full picture of your infrastructure and some of the operations. For example, here we have even integration into vCenter to pull out all our vCenter hosts. We can go to an individual vCenter host, and for example, we can kick off the monitoring to monitor the utilization on this particular ESXi host from this console. Right, so this is kind of the level of integration we are going with. We are already talking to some of these resources, aggregate some of that information, bring the most useful information to the user in this single console.
One thing that concerns me about that is that means that Dell is spending time developing the same functionality in multiple tools, because we had a demo of Foglight earlier today, and it's like, it's like all software evolves to the point where it can send email. Don't do that. But make it do the thing that it does really awesome, and then get it to talk to another tool that does it really awesome.
That's exactly.
Because then it doesn't matter, because the hardest way to get your tools into somewhere is if it has to be a Dell shop, whereas most places won't be purely Dell. Yeah. But to be able to get your tools into those, they have to be able to talk to other things.
And that's important. And here, right, in our integrations with vCenter, we are not implementing monitoring on our end. We are just going to vCenter and telling us, give us the data, what it is. And the same with Foglight, right? As we start integrating with Foglight, we aren't going to build Foglight-like functionality in our system. And also, another thing to point out is the end user, there are launch points into other tools and apps that we provide here, so you can just click into another tool, specifically like stuff like our out-of-band management iDRACs, right? Yeah. You can even go into other consoles through some of the links we provide here, so it just makes it easier for you to transition from tool.
Yeah, but in the best of all possible worlds, when Foglight sees that the web servers in this cluster are overloaded, it should be able to trigger an action and say, fire up another instance of a web server in that cluster, because I need, because it's December 3rd and sales are high.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the cloud way, though.
Yeah, it's the cloud way.
That goes back to... this has an API.
Yeah.
So that's a question. Does this have an API that could be addressed by external tools?
Yes. So that's one of the things. So this is built on an API set, right? All our clients talk to the northbound APIs that the service layer exposes.
Awesome.
For now, it is not exposed externally. But at some point, we will have a plan as we kind of mature the product and grow it over the next couple of iterations. There is a possibility that we'll expose it, but it is all API.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, that
because again,
we haven't published it
Yep.
publicly. It's available.
It
We
has
work
one,
with
which is
customers,
fantastic.
that's
Yeah, so build it, make it robust and everything.
We're going to
Cool.
make it more SDK oriented.
But yeah, the ability to be able to do that means that then, because people out there are going to go and plug this in all kinds of crazy ways that you won't even think of. And the fact that they've done that will then, again, ecosystem staff, they can share that with each other, and it makes your tool more useful.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, you guys are competing against Amazon EC2 basically, Amazon Web Services with this stuff. Do I move my workloads into the cloud, the public cloud, or do I keep it local, in a private cloud?
Yeah.
And that's the question. Amazon EC2, Amazon AWS has an API.
Yes.
When my monitoring system detects that user response time is more than X milliseconds or whatever, it just forks off 84 million instances, pre-configures them, and now I'm okay again.
Yes, exactly.
To Justin's point, we can't do that with your tool yet.
But actually, it's all REST API driven. If you track the messages going back and forth between the client and the server, if you trace it, it is all REST API. It's RESTful calls that are going back and forth.
So that's tremendous.
Until it's documented.
Exactly.
It doesn't exist.
Exactly. So our goal is, we have our framework supports it. Now it's all about how we package it into an SDK format, build that ecosystem, and make sure we can collaborate on that and message that out to our customers. So that's the thing that we are working on. That's a future aspiration for us. But it's definitely, we recognize the need to have that in the marketplace. So, and if you look at this here too, there are some supported operations. These are some of the most common tasks that you would perform on a vCenter host that is available to you here on Active System Manager. So I guess in the interest of time, it's probably this is a good time to wrap up, and please feel free to reach out to us for detailed demos, hands-on sessions if you guys are interested, and we can always provide more detail.
Oh, Plankers already has it running in his lab.
Do I have what already?
ASM.
I don't. You guys, I think my Dell guys were attempting to find me one of these to have in my lab. So you can help with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the combination of a Vertex and ASM.
Yeah, I take free Vertexes too.
Yeah, we've all been asking for that.
Yeah. Actually,
I
would actually pay for a Vertex.
Hey, I am way low in the list myself.
You're dead.
All right, guys. Thank you all for your time. If you don't have any more questions, but always feel free to reach out to us.
Cool.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.